Flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're now listening to the Mind of an Antares Moon, Flight boss, the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And I have got a question, and a person want to know why am I Archangel Uriel, and how can they find out who they are and things of that nature. So, for the most part, now this is not something this figment in my imagination. It has to correlate with the spirit realm, and it has to correlate with the physical realm. So before we get into this video, this is what you need to understand. Everything is about space and location, right? Everything is about space and location. Now, Uriel, the word that's used, Uriel, is just describing the energy signature. It's just describing that actual space and location. You see what I'm saying? So we got a bunch of different words. We got a bunch of different things here, right? That's backed and supported by a certain energy signature. But the words and the meaning and reasoning is really just an explanation of the energy signature that reside in that space or that location or whatever being came from that space and location and brought those sigils or symbols here. So if you are a physical representation right now, right, and you got a bunch of ideas on your mind, even to your children or to the things that you manifest in your life, what you bring here is a result from what you are attracting from that space or that location. So say if you have a mental thought or mental concept, ain't no telling where that came from in the astral realm. But when you have these high or low ideas and thoughts and start to vibrate on it, you start to bring certain things from that space and that location and whatever beings, whatever spirits and beings rule that realm of reality and however they look at it. So if it's a high realm and you have mental high thoughts and concepts, then 9 times out of 10 you'll be vibrating on their frequency and receiving their messages. Remember, the thoughts is not you. If you're vibrating low and catching those frequency, then that's going to let you know what kind of world you are in. Now, you could vibrate low and attract a bunch of bodies with spirits in them here in the physical realm. Or you could vibrate so low, you end up attracting spirits and beings in another realm of reality that's below you, that's vibrating low down there. Now, they could be vibrating high or low down there, but for the most part, when it reaches you, and where your stance at, where you at in the present as a spirit, it would appear as vibrating low spiritually to everybody you are around. So you doing dark, like deep dark shit onto other people, and you know what I'm saying, you might be doing magic onto others and shit, and then you may be unaware that you are doing this yourself because your spirit may have got birthed by another spirit that got birthed by another spirit that's what this your family spirits do. So even when you come here and you look at highly religious person, look at each religion, a lot of times you'll be trying to waste your time trying to get them out of their religion, because a lot of times their spirit, that's their spirit family in all realms. Like, for an example, people worship Jesus here, right? So they trying to be born in Jesus and be reborn. When you put your mental concept in that space and location, that's your family as spirits. Now, your family as spirits could be scattered throughout the universe in all kind of realms of realities, in all kind of different beings. But y'all all are connected, because if you understand the spirit realm, you understand the energy realm behind the illusion, behind the yang, behind the energy. You know what I'm saying? Energy is the illusion. We create the energy as spirits. For an example, I could create a whole new energy right now. Nobody would see me in the way that they see me before based upon that new energy I created. Now, that new energy could take a bunch of different shapes and forms, but what we need to understand is that was an energy I created. So when you talk about people who cling on to certain things, it'll be your downfall to try to change their mind, because a lot of times they're in that spiritual family. So just because they in this realm of reality, you're not going to change. You're not going to tell them something different about their brothers and sisters and their lords and shit like that, because that's their family. So a person who might be clinging on to Jesus Christ, right, and they say Jesus Christ is going to be my savior, when they die, whatever realm of reality they go into, Jesus might be in a one that's ahead of that one. So they might just get born in a whole nother family where they're doing the same thing over again, still looking for Jesus, where that's just a family. Then say you end up getting into the realm of reality where the spirit of Jesus is at the moment, in the present, and then you get to meet that person with that Jesus spirit in that person's body. You will be able to understand that, oh, at that point, Jesus will probably be your actual brother, or be your actual parent, or be your actual cousin, or be your actual best friend in that realm of reality. Because you shared so many experiences, shared so many vibrations and fluids, that it added all the way until you shared shared a physical experience with this person. And if you were so connected vibrational wise as a spirit, then the person, place, or thing, or the illusion you're going to manifest when you go into that world is going to be, you're going to be closely attached to that. So in whatever realm of reality it is, it's going to play out as it being actually your family or your friends or things of that nature. So that's what you need to understand. This is why you could be born into a family that don't like you and things of that nature, because y'all get lost into words and terms of family. See, as a spirit, you are just a spirit traveling. Your soul group or your spiritual group may be somebody that you meet that you maybe a different race or whatever, or somebody you just met that's the same race that you ain't family with or something, but you can resonate with them way better than your. Why is that? Because that's probably your spirit family, or y'all wouldn't resonate. See, y'all resonate with things beyond the physical realm. So y'all didn't have to be family. Y'all didn't have to be friends. Y'all didn't have to know somebody who knew somebody. Y'all just basically met each other as strangers, and y'all resonated with each other because y'all spiritual family. So there's a form of incest going on all shape in all realms of realities. That's what you need to understand. Because you wouldn't even be attracted to somebody. Now, for the most part, if you didn't have a spiritual resonant with them, you know what I'm saying? So that's how to help you decipher what's going on behind the scenes and what's going on in the physical realm. And then when you anchor these two realms together, you that phi. You be able to sustain yourself in that realm until you transform and go into another place. You have to center yourself. You know what I'm saying? So this is why we always create solar plexuses, our first conscious bodies, to be aware of that realm of reality. So as us being spirits, we create forms to be individual, which is our solar system and shit like that. So now let's get it. So now that I broke that down, how to understand it has to correlate with the spirit and it has to correlate with the physical. Now we're going to bring this in. So people want to know why I am Archangel Uriel. Now here's the thing. Let's break this down first. Now Uriel, here let's break down the energy signatures that reside in that space and location. Now Uriel means the light of God or the fire of God. Now me, I'm a Aries sun, Sagittarius moon, Aries ascendant. Leo ascendant. What the fuck am I talking about? Leo ascendant. So I'm triple fire. Aries sun, Sag moon, Leo ascendant. You know what I'm saying? Triple fire. Now, I'm a number 9 person all across the board with my real name and shit. When it comes all down to that, I'm a number 9 person. Now, Uriel represents the number 9 energy, right? So that's wisdom, knowledge, and totality over the realm of reality. You have wisdom and knowledge over the totality of the realm you are in. So this is not the only realm, just the space we are in. I may have certain wisdom and knowledge that perceive in there based upon that number 9. Now, I was born on a Wednesday. You know what I'm saying? Wednesday is Uriel's day. I was born on a Wednesday. Now I was born at we ain't gonna get in that, but 2:44 I was born at, which, you know, we ain't want to bring, I don't want to bring that in, because I'm gonna get back to that, but that's something else, because that's man time. But you need to understand, as a spirit, you come in certain realms of realities and you come through the space that you resonate with. So keep that in mind. As a spirit, you come through the space that you resonate with. So it has to be a vibration that you resonate with. And through that space, you get filtered through the lights and things of that nature that been there before you. And then you're able to create a vessel for yourself to mimic that realm of reality, but also act out the expression of the space you just came from before you got filtered through the realm of reality of the lights that we are up under in this solar system. You see what I'm saying? That's why it's important to understand fixed stars. Because you get to understand where you came from before you got filtered through the realm of reality of the being you are in right at the moment. So if you are existing in this being we are in at the moment, but you came from a fixed star, this means you came from either a conversation or from having sex or from an experience as a seed from another being. And from that being will be your constellation or your fixed star. And whatever conversation or sex from that being was having from this being we are in at the moment, that's how you got here as a seed and started to experience this realm of reality. So like I said, Wednesday, I was born Wednesday. I'm fire. I'm all fire, which is Uriel is the fire of God and things of that nature. I'm a number 9 person all across the board. Now let's get into astrological wise. Let's get astrological wise. Now, the moon represents who you are, because the moon represents the womb, the world. You see what I'm saying? The egg cell. So for the most part, what you need to understand is that's how you got filtered through here, vibrational wise, as far as your spirit. So that was one of the first bodies, the first soul bodies that you created as a covering to come into this realm. So the moon correlates to who you are, and the realm that we in is correlated to the re energy, which is Earth, right? So that's why when you correlate it, it's reactive, it's responsive. You know what I'm saying? Retracting. When you breathe, you inhale first. So this is letting you know that this realm is controlled by the feminine energy. So the feminine energy was how you got here to be pushed out in this realm to have a son. You see what I'm saying? So for the most part, when you look at the moon, you're looking at a different realm. It's like you're looking out of a hole into another realm. So that's how you got here. So the moon as a spirit, my moon sign conjuncts the fixed star Antares. Now, the fixed star Antares, that's why I say you're now listening to the mind of an Antares moon. The fixed star Antares is the physical representation, the physical manifestation of the Watcher of the West. Now, what is the Watcher of the West? The Watcher of the West is an energy signature that correlated the energy spectrum and the vortex, and it created the energy and pushed it out that you feel from that area of space. So anything that travels in that space is basically the space and location where my spirit came from. Now, this space is a very high space. You see what I'm saying? This space is a very high space. So everything that's up under that space will be miniature versions of it. So they would carry out the duties and obligations in their own way, in their own fashion of that space. Now me, I am that space of who I am and how I react and respond to the world. Because the moon is how you react and how you respond and who you are. So who I am and how my spirit came here is through that layering, covering of that high space. So it just seems like I may be able to attract high consciousness, high ideas, high vortexes and vibrations from high spaces and areas and locations. You see what I'm saying? By being here. Now this is what you need to understand also. It's Watcher of the West. So those energies, since it's the bigger space and this space is within it, the bigger space of it is the controller of the elements in it. Now the elements I may have used to correlate that space was I may have used a little bit of air, then I used a little bit of water, then I used a little bit of fire. The signatures of it I used cardinal air, I used fixed fire, and I used fixed water, and I used mutable fire. So I used cardinal air, fixed water, and mutable fire. Now you could correlate and construct those all together, and that could kind of formulate my characteristics. So when y'all see me acting out and things of that nature, correlate cardinal air, which later have manifested into the star constellations of Libra, fixed water, which later have manifested out of the heart of the Scorpion and end up manifesting into the constellation of Scorpius, and then correlate mutable fire, which later have became Sagittarius. Now mutilize these energies together, right? Cardinal air, I'm initiating and creating new ways of how to think and relate. You see what I'm saying? And communicate. You see what I'm saying? And creating balance between the lower realm and the higher realm. Now, I do that in a fixed water way. What is fixed water? In a fixated way of dealing with the emotions and feelings, which is I am stable and stuck on my own, which is soul. Water correlates with soul, emotions and feelings. So anytime you're fixed and stubborn in the spiritual realm, that's actually positive, because nobody else's spirit can move and take a different shape and form or dictate what your spirit do, because you're fixated and then you go to the depth of it. So I go into the depth of the behind the scenes realm, into the dark of the veil, which is Scorpio, to do the cardinal air. Then the cardinal air that's filtered through the fixed water, how I just explained it, now add the mutable fire. I do it in an extreme, expressive, multiple view point of type of way, which is mutable fire. You see what I'm saying? Fire represents seeing and feeling. Mutable represents multiple ways, being mobile, mutable, and being able to adapt. So I do the Libra and the Scorpio in a mutable way of seeing and feeling about things. So I'm able to see and feel in many different ways about deep, dark things to communicate and relate to others. You see what I'm saying? So that's dealing with music, that's dealing with spirituality, and religion, that's dealing with dark mysticism, occult-like things. And when you start to break that down, you start to understand, like, goddamn, that's all of his videos. Now, when you do a little research on the fixed star Antares, this is what a lot of Christians or a lot of other people like to actually, they like to correlate this with the Archangel Uriel also. So when you get the 4 cardinal points, I control one of the solstices. Now, when we talk about the west, that area of space, I control the fall. So anytime you see any kind of star, not just the sun, even the space we are in, travel through the space and area location of where I'm at, which is going to the west, you're gonna witness from your reality, from your perspective, that things appear to be falling. So when we are in the fall, seasonal wise, when we're traveling through that space, it appears that trees are falling. The leaves are falling off the trees, or things are dying, things of that nature. When the sun is going through that space, it appears that the sun is unseen, so we get more darkness at that time of the year than it does on the other time of the year. When the sun is going through the fall time throughout the day, this is where you see the sun falls to appear. This is appears to fall, which is 6 p.m. You start to get sunset. I control that whole space. Now, I don't want y'all to get lost when I say I control, because we all got access to these energies. You see what I'm saying? Just the better you know how to pick up on the highest vibrational of it, you could get there too. But some people are naturally here. You probably naturally Michael or Gabrielle. Some people come here naturally because of the previous life they was in. So the previous life already was on a certain path, so it resonated with certain frequency vibrations before it got here. So that's what I subconsciously picked when I seen the light to come here. So I subconsciously seen that area and space and location within the mind of this being before I became a child in other fluids, and that's what I seen. So I'm in a high part of the mind of this being we are in. But that's another video. But for the most part, so from that space and area location, that's where things appear to look like it's falling at. But that's you just see it that way because based upon where we at or where you're at, right? Everybody had their own space. So every space is respective and relative to the other space. This is how we get concepts of rotation and things being relative and how that got manifested out of karma. How karma manifested out of that and shit like that, where what goes around comes back around, where we start to get concepts of globes and roundness. All these things actually exist. But it comes from the spirit realm first. That's what you need to understand. This is why you have relatives, because you probably shared a bunch of experiences in a previous life with people, and that's an AKA pattern, a rotation or a job, and you kept being in that pattern or rotation to the point and being relative to their energy to the point that when you came here, y'all motherfuckers became relatives. So when you go out and work or whatever like that, you're doing things for your relatives. You come back and rotate around your family sector. See, it goes deep, but y'all get attached to these words that people be saying. Now, as far as the space, this space right here is the west, right? You know what I'm saying? You have the north, which would be Raphael. You know what I'm saying? You have the east, that's why y'all see things rising. Y'all see the birth of things. Y'all see things coming up. Just from your perspective, though, in this realm of reality in the space you are in. Spaces is playing out differently based upon what, like, if you was in a realm of reality next to you, things may appear to be different. So what's left to you may be right in the realm of reality right next to you. There's multiple realms of realities and beings and spirits in those bodies. You can't see it because the elements that your spirit created in this realm of reality, based upon the lights that you came under, is created in these percentages of elements. Now, the realm of reality next to us is formulated in a whole nother way. So the body parts that you formulated can't perceive them the same way they can't perceive you. But y'all both are connected. We're all connected. And we know that based upon when we vibrate on certain frequency vibrations and catch thoughts. I got a thought. And your thought don't become yours until you bounce off the thought you caught and then formulated your own structure, a thought. So you took from external elements, paintbrushes, and formulated yours, and then that's when it became your thought. Then you push that out. Then anybody who's vibrating on the same frequency as you will be able to pick up your thought, no matter what realm of reality that spirit is in, and what body that spirit is in another realm of reality. If they're vibrating on your frequency in some way, shape, or form, they'll be able to pick up on your idea that you pushed off from the ones that you received, and then we're all channeling with each other, in and out. This is where you get that concept of it going one ear and out the other. You caught something, formulated your own, pushed it out. somebody else can get it. No matter what realm it is. This is what we doing. And based upon what vibration, frequency, and what realm you are, whether it's a high one or a low one, that's going to let you know what you're channeling, what spirits you're interacting with. I don't care if it's a person in front of you or a person that's in the realm ahead of you or a person that's in a realm above or below you. If y'all vibrating on the same frequency, y'all all channeling each other's thoughts and y'all all passing, y'all all conversating, and y'all all playing out those energy signatures. Dumbasses. But, you know, for the most part, this would be the watcher of the West. So, you know what I'm saying? People get lost in the West. The West represents the darkness, represents the occult. So when we talk about Western science and things of that nature and stuff like that, this is more hidden. You know what I'm saying? So the things that we may push out is because we're coming from a dark nature. So in the physical realm, you got a bunch of people who are lost in the physical. So when you get the physical representations, you got a bunch of people who take Eastern science, symbols, knowledge, religion, spirituality, right? And since the sun rises up there, they think they have the light. So they're correlating everything to the dark, to the light. And since they have a shape or form to represent what they think is true, this is where you get the concept of lords, gods, and being lost and following lost stars. So they had pick a star that they think was in a specific position, right? And then once that star moved, they think that star is actually controlling the actual space that it just left from. So they think that star is controlling a season. They think that star is controlling actually that star is just traveling, trying to sustain itself in the next space it went into. So that star, even though that star may have been birthed from a specific space, once it leaves, that energy of that space don't leave with that star. That star take the energy of that space with it and move. So this is what you Eastern sciences need to understand. For y'all can quit putting lords and titles on these stars, because the stars for an example, if Aries created spring, right? The star constellation, not the space that created the star constellation of Aries, which is what you need to, which Western is trying to explain. So even though you might got a few baby people who kick Western knowledge, they may not be able to pick up what they sensing. But I'm here to let them know that this is what you're trying to sense and this is what you're trying to explain. You're trying to explain that the horoscopic is the most important, because once we understand the space, then we can understand the influence that's going on within that space. So for an example, Eastern, this is what y'all need to understand. If Aries star constellation started in spring, right? And if the Aries star constellation is now somewhere in late Taurus or now somewhere in Gemini, right? This is where you have to make sense out of it. That star constellation, at that should be the time we experience spring. But we don't. We change the calendars and shit like that to correlate to the space. So then y'all get lost into thinking that we don't have the right time because we're not calculating it based upon these stars. No, these people who's coming up with calendars and shit, they know what the fuck they doing. They're calculating because us in the space we in, we ain't moving as fast as those stars. So we still have to correlate the time of the space we are in. So if we're traveling through a space when spring still happens here, but the star constellations of Aries is no longer there, then this is giving you the concept of, okay, then we have to understand our space first. Then once we understand our space, we're going to be like, okay, so wherever Aries at, it's going to be bringing some spring-like energy signatures with it. But it's not going to be spring. So Aries may give off the influences onto Taurus or early Gemini, but you're still but you still was birthed out of the Taurus or Gemini space. So you may have fiery influences, aka when we get into summer, it may have spring-like influences, but summertime is not spring. AKA Aries is going to give off influences in those spaces and locations of the same kind of energies of where it came from, but it's just giving an influence to that space that's already in that vortex. The energy that created Aries is still what spring is pushing out based upon our space and location. So once you understand a horoscopic system and you get spiritually inclined, as Eastern astrologers, you will be able to take from the Western, right? And be able to go where these fixed stars at and then understand that world from a horoscopic perspective. Therefore, you will understand if that star is lost or not. You will understand if that star is actually a lord or not. You will understand if that star is actually a detriment or if it's positive to the influences that is given down here or not. But see, y'all don't. Y'all automatically, as Eastern, y'all automatically say it's a lord because it's traveling and you're following lost stars. So since it's a lord, you automatically give it characteristics and traits of the space it just left from. But you're saying it's the Lord and God of that space, which it came after the fact. The space is the spirit. That's what you need to understand. And now that star became a lord of a certain space. And then when we travel through that space, it don't even play out in the way that you see it. So you end up being unsure if these effects is playing out in your life or not, because you're not understanding where that shit came from. You only understand where it's going and worshiping where it's going. And it may be lost because you don't understand the horoscopic system, so you don't know if it's lost or not. Understand the space you are in so you can understand the space somebody else will be in. And let me bring this down in a physical terms, right? You may be a certain person that do certain things and you got family and friends around you, right? Now you understand your space and you understand what you want in and out of your space and how you like to correlate yourself, right? So understanding that will prevent you from allowing other people's to bring they shit that's in their space to you, so you don't get lost in their space. AKA somebody convince you to do something you don't want to do. Somebody put you in a vortex you don't want to be in. You see what I'm saying? But you got certain people. But in the same fashion down here, we are all stars. You have another person come around you, and now you follow their way of doing things. You follow their concepts. You follow their ideas and shit like that, to the point that you think they control a certain scenario or circumstance or situation. So when that person is not around, your space feel less. You don't feel like everything is in your space. You feel like you need to call that person. You feel like you need to be around that person. You feel a loss of space. You see what I'm saying? Even if that person died. So now you feel like you have a loss of space. But what you're not understanding is your space always been your space. You was just following somebody else's space around and lost your own space, to the point that now this person has became a lord or a god on a low vibrational scale to you. Because anybody that make you feel less of yourself when they ain't around or things of that nature, they became a lord or lower vibrational god to you. So this is what Eastern sciences and knowledge is and shit from the East, and all y'all Eastern astrologers and shit like that. This is what y'all dive into on a psychological level. So when y'all hear me talk about it, y'all be quick to argue with me about shit, and y'all truly don't know what you arguing about. When I do flight astrology. I add all y'all shit. I am Western, I add Eastern, I add Northern, and I add Southern. Motherfucker, I add every goddamn thing because I know where I'm at, because I'm not lost. So I'm not going to continue, so I'm not going to follow any lost stars and give it some type of lord. I understand the lords of the space that we are in. You see what I'm saying? Monday is the moon. Sunday is the sun. Saturn is Saturday. Friday is Venus. See what I'm saying? Thursday is Jupiter. Wednesday is Mercury. Tuesday is Mars. You see what I'm saying? So when we travel through these locations and spaces, those planets, they was birthed in that space before we traveled through that space. So that's why we call it a lord. But that's just technical terms and words. But that's just the being that was here in this space before we're traveling through that space. Time is nothing but location, area, and space. See what I'm saying? Flight boss, bitch, goddamn air.